Hello, Alexa. How are you, sister?
Hello, Nizam. I'm so excited to see your face. I keep thinking about you in class and I miss you.
So do I. So do I. Those were the wonderful days and personal transformation. So, friends, we have here Alexa Little Star. Trust me, she is not a little star at all. So that there's a lot in her story, in her journey. So she is a alchemical hypnosis training instructor and a shamanic practitioner. Let's know more about Alexa from her own story. So, Alexa, how weird a kid were you?
Oh my God. I mean, I was, it's at first like seemingly like a regular kid, but I definitely was into magical things. I think I kept my magical child around all these years because I tried to make a moon house in the basement and I tried
Oh,
to get my parents to do all kinds of weird stuff, which of course everything was met with a no. That's not going to happen. And so I always had really crazy ideas of changing spaces and creating what I think I wanted to create is my alchemy cave all this time, my laboratory basically. And so I was a nature child. I was outside a lot, and my dad took me everywhere and explained everything. So, in
wow.
essence, I feel like from an alchemical family. My parents were both photographers and always into capturing things and explaining things. So, I definitely grew up with very, very close nature guardianship attitude that this is a place we need to take care of. So
Wow.
I have that from my parents, which I'm very grateful for. Of course, later, high school and all that, I was not part of any group. I was all over the place, but mostly just really curious my whole life about process. I loved process.
Wow. So, how were you at academics where your heart was into nature, healing, exploration, all this stuff?
How was it in the academics? Is that what you said?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
How were you in academics?
terrible in school. I was terrible. I would sit and stare out the window. It just wasn't the sitting still part, the being bound to a desk for all these hours was just not for me. I had to literally go after school. My mother knew before I started any homework, I have to go for a run. I started running
Mm.
because I felt so much energy. I didn't know what to do with it. And this is something that I learned later on in life is I was just running energy. It wasn't anxiety, it wasn't anything like we call it today. It was just being pent up in a room with 30 other kids, hearing everything and feeling everything. I was very empathic as a child too. And so that was hard. So my academics were bad. I was on a list for you have to get on a waiting list to get a study place like in the university. And I decided to move to America instead of waiting for a place to study, which I wasn't that interested at the time. I right after graduating my 13 years of school, which is what it like in Germany, I moved. I went on a world trip, and then I moved to America and completely uprooted my whole entire life.
Wow. So, how did this shamanic journey happen?
I think because I grew up near nature, I was in touch with what I know now are shamanic practitioners. I had some mentors I didn't even realize. The people that were close to nature. I met a reflexologist really early to that worked on me, and I started being curious about that. Um, I feel like I did without knowing what I was doing. I had little rituals in the woods. I would set up stones or tree piece. What do you call them? Tree branches. I grew up in Germany next to a big forest. And so I felt like there was always an underlying knowing. I didn't know what it was, but I knew there was something that kept me in touch with plants and with animals especially. I was very
Mhm.
communicative with animals, and that kind of gave it away. This, what is that? And I thought it was normal. I thought everybody was doing that. But that wasn't the case. So yeah.
So did you have some uh, different dreams which are unusual, or some were you able to connect to spirit guides right from childhood? Like, tell me something about your dreams.
I mean, I grew up in a mostly Catholic area. My parents were Protestant, which is slightly different here. So I was definitely part of the indoctrination of Christianity was definitely happening, but I didn't resonate as much with that. I think it was I had dreams of um, what I would now think of are glimpses of past life regressions. I had dreams of battlefields, and I had dreams of castles having to be defended, and I had dreams of being trapped in a room with as a guardian with a bunch of women and children, and I had to like either kill them or save them. I don't even know. Like I had these really intense dreamscapes, I want to say. And as my mom would told me later that she was a little bit afraid of me because I would say things that would come true. I would say things that were mildly not prophetic but had like a oh this is what's gonna happen. And
Okay.
she admitted this only very recently that that was a part that kind of made her a little bit weird, that I was a weird kid because of it. um but definitely yes, dreams, but more in the waking state. I had more stuff happen to me in the waking state. I would think I would see things that weren't there, but I thought it was normal. Maybe fairies, maybe little twinkles. Like I just would see things, a little bit differently. I think that's the extent of it. I didn't have my full opening till later because it wasn't allowed. It wasn't allowed to do any of that.
Yes, yes. And for hundreds of years, witches were suppressed to the extent possible. So, ever happened that this life as a woman, and you are drawing towards healings and spirituality, shamanism, there is this inner conflicts ever tested you, outside versus inside, sister?
Oh yeah. I had a trip to Egypt and I got really, really sick. And I literally thought I was gonna die there. I thought
Oh,
I was gonna die because I couldn't, let's not get into details, but I had something to eat or drink that was absolutely bad. And for 3 days I had this thought that I'm gonna die here. And a woman came into that was the wife of the person I was staying with in this hostel, and she came and brought me herbs, and she brought me a hot rock to sit on for the pain, and she was taking care of me in ways which I've never understood. And so I learned something there. I learned something that there's something other than medicine. There is something that she did. She was singing and praying over me, and it miraculously turned everything around. So that was kind of one of those moments where I realized something is different here. But how I noticed it that I had this was in the same on the same trip. I was kind of in a delirious fever because of my sickness, and a man came into my room and was trying to do something that I clearly wasn't going to consent to because I was very weak from this experience. And I remember something rising up in me at that moment. Although I could barely get up and keep my head up, I kind of knew there was a danger, and I all of a sudden had a voice come out of me that I've never heard before. And that voice scared the hell out of that man. Scared him right out of my room. I remember sitting up and just like the exorcist, like some kind of a channeled witch voice, or maybe a spirit guide that said, "You have to do this, or something is going to happen that's going to drastically change your life." And so I've had archetypes that have bubbled up in me to defend me in situations when most normally I would think a woman of that age in that kind of a country would be dead, just dead.
oh,
I traveled a lot, traveled the world a lot when I was younger. So that's how I noticed, oh, there's something different meeting healers of different countries. and resonating with that and being seen for, oh yeah, they see it too. That kind of situation.
Amazing.
Yes.
So if I call you witch, how does that resonate with you?
I do a lot of studying with Native American women and a lot of other path workings. And this word witch, it doesn't really necessarily is a label that I use for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it has so much history, you know, especially in Germany and England. We all know I have books and books and books and did lots of clearings for a lot of people about their time as a witch. And now we try to make this like there's a feminine movement about the witch all over again. The witch, witch, witch. I don't use it for myself. I don't need it. I'm an alchemist. I call myself an alchemist
Alchemist.
more than a witch because of the potential of also the hexing, you know, the putting a using it for things to manipulate uh, situations.
Hmm.
I don't like doing it that way. I like the alchemical way better.
Okay, okay. So, how did you meet our beloved teacher, David Quigley?
Yes, David, I the funny thing is I saw an advertisement for a somatic healing workshop in Santa Rosa. I lived in
Mhm.
Fairfield at the time, which is 1 hour away.
Okay.
And I don't know if I saw it on Facebook or where I saw it, but it was one of those moments that just came to me. Here's an advertisement. And without thinking, I just went to the workshop. It was a 3 day workshop in person in his office. And what I saw during those 3 days was miraculous. There was a woman with a car accident that had no movement in her crippled hands, something like that. And I remember at the end of those things, she had movement because of this miraculous method. And so after that workshop, David looked at me and he said, I'll never forget it. He said, "You could be my wizard apprentice."
Wow.
And he said, in 10 days starts a training in Texas for this whole entire program. I think you should be on it. And I was like, it was all a smooth coming together. I loved the workshop. I signed up for the program. I had no money, but I made some phone calls and I told people I was so excited and passionate. And so 10 days later, I was on my way to Texas to
Wow.
for the in-person training. And I've been working with David, learning from David, and now working with David ever since that moment.
So what
And
is,
we
yeah,
had our journey, you know, we had our journey, but this work is fantastic. It just is.
yeah. What inspired you to the extent that you wanted to become an instructor in the alchemical hypnosis?
Oh, yes. Well, first of all, the passion that I carry for teaching things. I love teaching. I did some dance instructions when I was in high school, and I love um, falling back in love with collaboration with people after doing my whole healing journey. And I just feel like more and more people should be educated in this. I feel like this should be this should be mandatory. A lot of the practices that we teach should be common knowledge. And I felt like if I could teach it, not just do it, but if I could also teach it with this completely entirely a different story, then I could spread it to more people, not just in my private practice, but also just having a classroom full of people that is passionate about something that is a absolute fail safe. It just what is it? What do you guys say? What is it? Fail safe. It's a safe method. It works. Everything about it works,
Yeah.
and it's been so wildly successful that I just want to bring it to more people. And I recognize that David might be going into retirement at some point, and this would be the time. The time was definitely right now to do this. Turns
Wonderful.
out to be a good timing.
Yeah. And see, there is like extremities of everything, sister. Like some people want to experience these kind of spiritual experiences with substances like marijuana and all that stuff. And in alchemical hypnosis, we never go into any kind of external dependencies, and it's all about internal and internal. So what's your advice about people wanting to experience some deeper experiences of their life, but without having to be dependent on any external substances? So what is your advice there, and how does alchemical hypnosis fulfill those needs?
Well, the beauty of alchemical hypnosis is there are no side effects, there are no legalities, there's not, you don't have to go to Peru, you don't have to find the right shaman, which is really hard these days. A lot of people offering these medicine ceremonies and are not necessarily everybody is equipped and in integrity with plant medicine, frankly, right? It's some people sit with the plant for 7 years and then they before they even take it themselves, like these shamanic practitioners. And so that's a lot of stuff that most of us don't have time for. We don't have the time to take out of our lives to do all of this, even the travel. So I would say alchemical hypnotherapy does it. We bring the client to the same brain state but in a controlled environment. They
Mm.
don't just open the door to something and boom, here you are. It's a gentle process that leads people to just the right place in the right timeline to um, to facilitate some kind of a process, healing process, either start it or have a on the spot transmutation through whatever session, whatever protocol we're using, whatever that is. But I've seen people have worked for years with alchemical hypnotherapy, and now they're at a point where through their practice, they can self sustain a lot of the processes themselves. I mean, we do need a facilitator for most of it, but there's some stuff that you can work on at home, which we give people after each session. They have some kind of an anchor and some kind of a homework practice that they get not from me, but they get from their session. They hear this information. And so I think that's more powerful. I think it's more powerful to be with somebody that's highly trained for all the situations, whether you walk into a past life or whether a past life personality shows up or the big bad from your childhood shows up. You just want to be with somebody that knows exactly what to do in all those situations. And alchemical hypnotherapy provides that, which, and the proof is that we have more and more students that have studied psychotherapy and all kinds of processes, any kind of healing modality. We have students that come to us and say, wow, this is like the missing link. This is something that actually encapsulates all the healing that is possible from the inside. And all I'm doing is guiding people through it. So it's side effect is relaxation and starting to understand, getting the understanding, which is the alchemist's goal, to understand, right? To understand yourself, your body on all the levels, spiritual, emotional, physical, intellectual, all of that.
Okay, so personally, you have a lot of spiritual experiences, and through alchemical hypnosis, a lot of experiences, and with your clients, with your students, you might be seeing so many transformations. However, let's categorize experiences into fantasies.
Mhm.
Some people might hallucinate, and there is the uh, true spiritual experiences.
Yeah.
So when people come to you with whatever level, someone could be like, oh, you know what, this is what it is. It might not be true. It could be just their imagination or fantasy, or there is some deep level of spiritual experience. So when someone is going through such confusions, not everyone would understand their situation, and they have been labeled weird, crazy, whatnot. So when such people come to you, how do you guide them? What do you suggest, sister?
Well, first of all, I don't call them weird. I just welcome them. And I
No,
don't
they
believe.
have been labeled, is what I'm saying.
Yes. I mean,
Bad.
usually usually hypnosis is people's last attempt.
Asked
You know, a lot of people have tried everything and then they end up in,
everything.
they come in and they're like, you know, maybe I'm just weird. And the more people say, make these disclaimers about what they are, we train our practitioners to hear that as a particular voice that is part of the whole being. And so I enjoy having people talk about themselves and their issue and labeling themselves. I let them just tell me the whole story. And while I'm listening to the story, I can already see, okay, there's a judge at work here. Oh my God, there's a cynic at work. Oh, that child needs a hug. I can just hear all their voices in this interview, mostly already in the 20-minute free consultation. And so to make the client not wrong and to validate that what they're seeing and feeling is real to them, I start with that baseline. And then I say to them, well, let's see how this perspective could change once we're in trance, once the analytical mind is in the background a little bit and they start to go into the light trance state in which they can access their emotions in a completely different way. They can actually see themselves who is talking. They can actually find the truth in the session. Because although you might have a childhood memory that you're so sure of, I always leave people in this curiosity of like, well, perhaps it happened this way. Perhaps it didn't. I wasn't there. I know you were there, but your traumatized child or your traumatized teenager or adult might have crafted a survivor story and or some kind of a protection around you that might need a reframe. And this is something that we teach is how do we reframe people's reality? Not we, how they reframe their reality.
I was fortunate enough to experience those deep transformational healings. Thank you for that. And you played a vital role in my journey of alchemical hypnosis. And going forward, if someone is interested in the alchemical hypnosis trainings, could you please tell us if there are any upcoming programs scheduled and how is it like where to get
Yeah.
started, how to get started?
Yes, definitely. In fact, I'm starting a whole new alchemical hypnotherapy practitioner program on September 20th. That's this month. We start a whole new container, and it's a 15-day process that goes between 2 and 3 months, every other weekend, sometimes back-to-back weekends. And you can find information for that on Bridges Academy. We can put it in the comments. Bridges Academy is where the alchemical hypnotherapy is advertised and hosted. And then you can also go to my website, Moondoings at or alexalittlestar.com works also, or moondoings.com. And there's a link that goes to the same page. And you
Okay,
can look at it and get a little information. I also already scheduled four trainings for next year. So those dates are going to be posted also very soon.
wonderful,
And you
wonderful.
know, I always recommend have a private session, like have a private session and see what it's all about. Like it's
Yeah,
something that has to be experienced. I'm sure you
exactly.
can agree with that. It's a
Yes,
very,
yes, yes.
very experience.
I'm like ever grateful for those personal transformational sessions. And sister, like there are different modalities like Reiki healers, tarot card readers. There are some people, channels, mediums, uh, n number of healing modalities. If those people learn alchemical hypnosis, will that help them personally as well as to do even much better work with their clients? What do you suggest?
Absolutely. I mean, the alchemical therapy grounds every other modality in a sense that if you have the your alchemical thinking and the alchemical container that you create with your client, it's a more holistic way of looking at it.
Hmm.
It also helps people not get too attached to their healing outcome we make one of our number one things is don't be attached to the outcome of your client. And so, because it's not external, it's something they're going from the inside. I think that practitioners feel more grounded and confidence
Mm.
after taking this training. I want more people to become practicing alchemists. I'm really hoping that will happen, but I understand that that's a whole nother issue because you have to mold your life around it because it's 24/7. Like you can't. It's not something you do from here to here. It's something that you're doing on a 24-hour basis in your thinking and process. So I'm
Mm.
hoping more people will come to supplement what they already know and or also to have this to offer, you know.
Awesome, awesome. And are these trainings online, in person, or both? How does that work, sister?
At the moment, the trainings are online. We're still online since COVID. But in the future, I would like to start doing in person again. I would like to travel with it and meet a certain amount of people that can maybe come together and facilitate, a place where we can do it in person. I mean, there's many retreat centers here in San Diego, but it's very costly. So I'm thinking, if people want to do in person, to find a place where, you know, 8 to 10 people minimum could stay together and do an intensive to do this whole thing in one swoop.
Literally.
The way I
Yeah.
got to do it still, it is
Yes.
fantastic. I'm thinking about offering some retreats through my brother's estate in Brazil. He's got a place in Brazil that I'm thinking about maybe having a workshop. But I'm also open to other people and invitations to co-facilitate or co-create something for sure.
Amazing. And
Actually,
yeah.
before I forget, there is a place here in San Diego with my native teacher, Maria Yespero, and she has offered I can also use her land to do retreats. So if I can get enough people together, there will definitely be an in
Wow.
person.
Wow. That's awesome. And there are some people who are drawn towards meditation and all that, looking for answers like what's my purpose of my life, and there is some, like it could be more longing towards wanting to visit Egypt, or like some people are drawn towards multiple cultures. There's a deep quest to know more about themselves and all that. So if such people want to go through this alchemical hypnosis training, do you think that helps them to unlock their inner potentials and find these answers which remain like unanswered questions, sister?
Absolutely. Once you get rid of the contamination of the past, and we call it contamination, it's the pain of the past. Once you get the voices that run your life that confuse you or want to derail you, once you get through them in this training, you will process your inner child, you will process your a couple of past lives, you will process your parents, your upbringing, everything. And so once you go through that process, that's kind of like the initiation into going deeper. So most people after this training are called to change their lives, perhaps. They might realize they've been in a stagnant situation or relationship and they're realizing, oh my God, I have something else here. And so I have yet to meet someone that didn't have a massive transformation, even as a personal, even if they do the training for personal track, not necessarily for professional purposes.
Okay, got it.
Absolutely. Yes. Because
And
we're getting in touch with spirit guides and we're getting in touch with the higher self.
wow.
So there we go. The higher self will tell you what your purpose is.
Yes, yes. And I've seen certain people like, mysterious illness, um, frequent patterns of illness, frequent patterns of accidents, breakups, like, never able to stay in a relationship stable, or it could be career wise. There is something, it is beyond logic. And
Yes.
they want answers, they want some sort of deep healing. Do you think alchemical hypnosis can help such people?
Absolutely, because once we put in touch, once we become to know if we maybe have done something in a past life, let's say,
Mhm.
maybe we did an overt act that we haven't atoned for, which is making up for it. It could be that the repetitive lesson of the past keeps happening. It's the story of my life. It just never works out. I, as an alchemist, have to say, well, let's see why it never worked out. Perhaps in another lifetime you did something, or um, also the oh god, I lost my train of thought. That happens too sometimes. um yeah, it's that we're peeling back all the layers of your being in this program. You will find your shadow, what Carl Jung called the shadows, all the voices that are lurking, that are influencing you in some kind of a bad way. And so yes, absolutely, you will absolutely find those voices. You will be able to identify who they are and what they want, and also you will see that your eternal soul, what that means, what it means to be an eternal soul through this training. And so therefore you will grow in compassion for others that might have wronged you. And in this compassion, you will find compassion for yourself, to forgive yourself for the things that you've done. And the most important thing is to take responsibility for your actions in this lifetime or other lifetimes, to see where your responsibility could lie in the misfortune of what is happening to you.
Beautiful. And my last question, sister. Does alchemical hypnosis has to do anything with particular religion, or would it conflict with religious beliefs? What is your advice?
I would say that it doesn't definitely not have any conflict.
Mhm.
You can be a spiritual person, you can believe in God, you can believe in Buddha, you can believe in all of that and still be an alchemist, because alchemy was, every culture had their own alchemy: Tibetan alchemy, Native American alchemy, Western alchemy. And so in your spirit guides, you might meet Jesus as a spirit guide. Happens all the time, especially for people that say they want nothing to do with the church anymore, a lot of times. So I have some very religious clients that have a relationship with God as creator, or and do not feel in conflict with it. And plus,
Oh,
David has derived a lot of this from Buddhism, has derived from Taoism. So all the religions, all the alchemies from all the other religions have given a little bit of a piece into this work that has been compiled in this way.
okay. So
I
one
feel
can be religious and also explore alchemical hypnosis.
I think you could explore that, yes. I mean,
Wow.
if you believe, if you're so religious that you believe that this is blasphemic and spirit guides are bad, then maybe not.
Yeah.
But if you're open and curious, you don't have to denounce your religion to do
Hmm.
this.
That's what I meant. One
Yeah,
need not denounce anything and can add on alchemical hypnosis into their
yeah.
journey.
I don't want to change anybody's belief structure. In fact, the first question I ask is, what is your belief structure? What do you believe in?
Okay.
And often I find people believe in not much at all, which is probably also not great. Like you have to have some kind of belief in something, some higher intelligence in order to make this work. That's for sure. But also, I was told you don't have to believe it for it to work.
Oh,
This
wow.
believe
That's
it for it to
amazing.
work. And if you just be curious and you try
Yeah.
it out
Yeah.
and be open to the miracle and open to what's in it for you.
Yeah. So, as I'm talking to you, there is another question popped up. So, some people divide, like, men are more logical, women are more emotional. It doesn't have to be like anyone could be logical, anyone could be emotional. Uh, People who are very analytical, logical, if they enter into this alchemical hypnosis, ever happened that it blew their mind away and they have experienced something depth? It is good to be skeptical because I never find any problem with someone being skeptical. In fact, being little bit skeptical is good than the blind faith. So, ever happened, and any suggestions for them who are on the fence? Could be like your suggestion of experiencing a personal therapy session would be a good start. However, the message for them.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm a big skeptic too, by the way. This is what
So am
keeps
I.
me, yes, it keeps me sharp, and it keeps me in integrity with the work to
Yeah.
be skeptical. Am I doing it right? Is this the right way to do it? And so I came to it as a magical child and as a skeptic because we've been branded with different types of beliefs. And so I would say to somebody, you've got nothing to lose, experience a session, see what happens. And a lot of people that tend to be analytical, we have different ways to talk with different people. There's
Hmm.
different language for different people. Some people see more, some people hear more, some people overthink. And so the beauty is that in the light trance state, it simply cannot happen. You can't overthink because your analytical brain is taking a back seat over your unconscious brain, which is where the memories are, where the truth is seated. And so that's why we're putting away, that's why it's so powerful. So I would say to anybody that's skeptical, just try it. See
This
what
time.
happens. Yes,
Yes.
yes.
So thank you very much, sister, for this lovely conversation. And I think it has taken more than 2 years of
Yes.
waiting. And finally, here we are having this wonderful conversation. And thank you very much for answering all these questions. And I'm sure people who are going to view this interview have their answers to some extent, whatever they have their questions. And if you have any more questions, friends, I am providing Alexa's websites, everything. You can reach out to her personally, and she'll be more than happy to guide you. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you so much, Nizam.
Thank
It's
you.
been lovely.
Thank
Ciao.
you.